The Holy Grail War is a grandiose battle where 7 legendary heroes of the past are summoned and partner with their human vessel to participate into a battle royale. Which of these master-servant pairs stands tall at the end shall be granted one wish by the Holy Grail. But this time around, the Yggdmillennia Clan has stolen the Greater Grail. This prompted some new set of rules than the usual wars. 2 factions, the red and the black, each possessing 7 master-servant pairs, shall pit against one another until one side remains. For this, the faction of red recruits Shishigou, who summons his servant, a descendant of Arthur Pendragon Mordred, and with this commences the war. A major battle has erupted between the 2 sides, multiple servants fighting against one another. Meanwhile, Shishigou and Mordred are on their way to join the battle. Darnik Preston Yggdmillennia's leader, contemplates his past. He appeared in Japan half a century ago, and by working with Germans, he successfully stole the Holy Grail. Now with Yggdmillennia possessing the Greater Grail, they have enough magical energy to open the gates to the root, a means to fulfill all wishes. On the battlefield, Berserker of Black Frankenstein fights Shiro Kotomine, who appears to have the upper hand, while Atalante fights Spartacus. Vlad III and the Lancer of the Red, Karna, fight furiously. Atalante fires her noble phantasm, Phobia's catastrophe in the sky, and millions of tiny arrows rain over Spartacus, obliterating him. A teacher-student duel also happens between the Archer of Black, Chiron, and the Rider of Red, Achilles. Sieg frees his fellow homunculi from the laboratory and goes towards the falling Rider of Black, Astolfo, defeated after his battle with the Assassin of Red, Semiramis. At the same time, Shishigou arrives with Mordred in a car and leaves her to fight Astolfo. They both draw out their swords and start their battle. Back in the forest, Amakusa decides to escape, but Fran follows him. Amakusa orders the caster of Red, Shakespeare, to handle her, and he shows her an illusion of her creator, who announced her a failure after she was created. Fran panics and beats the illusion, but it only turns out to be a puppet. Callas, her master, uses a command spell to calm her and calls her back just as she is about to have a nervous breakdown. Atalante is given an order by the priest Amakusa to lure away the enraged and mad Spartacus towards the ruler Jean d'Arc. Meanwhile, Darnik Preston advances and decides that the time to conclude the fight has arrived. Sieg arrives at the battleground where Mordred and Astolfo are fighting. Mordred overwhelms both of them with her strength. As she's about to finish off Sieg, Fran intervenes with the help of a command spell from her master and tries to go against Mordred. However, even Fran gets pushed back. Mordred swings her magical imbued sword towards her, and Fran gets knocked out with a torn limb. Sieg rushes to drive away Mordred, but his efforts are in vain. Mordred drives her sword into his chest, and he is down on the ground. As she's about to finish him, Fran jumps on her neck again and uses her torn arm to choke her. With the help of Callas' final command spell, Fran unleashes her noble phantasm, Blasted Tree. A huge explosion happens, and some of the green lightning passes through the unconscious Sieg. Sieg finds himself in a realm with Siegfried, who tells him about his story of slaying Fafnir and living his life fulfilling the wishes of others. Siegfried shows him a sword and asks Sieg for his wish. Sieg replies that he wants power so that he can help others. He pulls the sword from the ground with determination. The smoke clears from the explosion, but Mordred is saved by Shishigou's spell. Astolfo and Mordred see Siegfried once again standing beside them. However, it is actually Sieg who has taken the form of Siegfried with his powers. Both sabers fight and unleash their beams, causing a massive explosion that engulfs the nearby ground. As Jeanne is on her way towards the Hanging Gardens of Babylon, the Red Faction palace, she is stopped by Atalante. Atalante provokes Spartacus, who is turned into a monster, and flees, leaving Jeanne to deal with Spartacus alone. A glaring flare soars into the sky and fades, and beneath it are both sabers, at their limit from fighting each other, but still willing to defeat the other. Both the Lancers, Vlad III and Karna, are engaged in their own battle against each other. From their vantage points, Semiramis and Shakespeare watch the battle. Spartacus abruptly shifts his focus and rushes towards Mordred, leaving Jeanne out of his sights. He attacks Mordred despite the fact that they are both members of the same faction. Mordred gets angry and slices his monstrous body in half. Spartacus, unable to maintain his form, releases his noble phantasm, crying warmonger. He fires a purple beam with the capacity of a nuclear blast. Mordred flees in time as Shishigou calls her back. However, Sieg and Astolfo are unable to move. To their help, Jeanne arrives, and she also unleashes her noble phantasm, Luminosite Eternelle, forming a strong barrier that saves them from the explosion. Karna falls back from his battle and returns to his place on orders. A huge hurricane extends from the Hanging Gardens, and they pull out the Greater Grail from the underground of Yggdmillennia. Darnik Preston Yggdmillennia sends his faction to get the Grail back. Vlad, Chiron, and Avis Braun encounter Karna, Atalante, and Achilles in the Hanging Gardens, and Karna continues his battle with Vlad. However, Vlad's power appears to have decreased. His power powers have been diminished because of the legend that followed his demise. Vlad has strictly forbidden Darnik from forcing him to use his noble phantasm no matter what. However, Darnik has no choice left. The Greater Grail is being lifted up to the Hanging Gardens as the priest Amakusa Shiro contemplates his long struggle, which is about to end. He was present in the past for the same amount of time as Darnik. The fight between the servants continues as Karna tells Vlad III the reason for his slow movements and weakened strength. Vlad's power is bound to his homeland Romania. However, since he is now in a foreign land, Semiramis' castle, his powers have decreased. Despite his weakness, he decides not to retreat. Darnik arrives at the spot and forces Vlad III to use his noble phantasm, the legend of Dracula. He transforms into a deadly vampire, and Darnik uses his third spell to merge his consciousness with Vlad's. Vlad goes mad and wreaks havoc inside, overwhelming each other's servant until Jean arrives. Meanwhile, the Black faction, Fiore, Collis, Gordis, and Roche think of a plan to take back the Grail. Back at the Hanging Gardens, Jean uses her command spell and restrains Vlad III, but he breaks the bind. Jean calls for a truce and commands servants of both sides to take down Vlad III first. Karna, Atalante, Achilles, Chiron, and Avisbron fight alongside each other to defeat Vlad III. Karna uses his immense flame energy to bring the vampire to his knees. However, as he is about to finish him, all the servants of the Red stop and feel a chain on them. It is seen that Amakusa has forced the Masters of Red to use their command spells to stop their servants from fighting. Seeing his chance, Vlad escapes and Chiron and Jean follow him. Vlad reaches a room and encounters Amakusa. He is recognized by Darnik in Vlad's body. Amakusa uses his purified swords and burns down Vlad III with his blue flames. Jean also reaches the room and she gets to know that Amakusa, master of the Red faction, is also a ruler, and no one will come in the way of his dream, which is saving all of humanity. Astolfo asks Sieg for an explanation for putting himself in danger after he tried so hard to save him from dying. Sieg apologizes, but tells Astolfo that his wish to help others will put him in danger. Astolfo admires this idea and decides to work with him to fix this forsaken war. As they are talking, Astolfo, master, arrives. Jean asks Amakusa what his goal is, and he reveals that it is the salvation of humanity. Jean disagrees and says that having the same beliefs, they cannot breach the barrier of doing it as a heroic spirit. Amakusa says that he will obliterate every obstacle in his way to achieve his goal after having a 1 in a million chance of being reincarnated. All the servants present in the Hanging Gardens reach the room. Astolfo's master, Selenike, commands him to kill Sieg for saving him earlier and bringing shame to her name. As he is about to use her command spell, her head is sliced and she falls down. Mordred saves them both by killing the insane master and goes to Shishigou. Since his master's death, Astolfo has begun to fade away. However, he is saved from being perished by Sieg, who makes a contract with him and becomes his master. The opposition between the Red and Black factions falls apart as Karna and Avisbron come towards Amakusa's side and Jean escapes with Chiron. Chiron is informed that Amakusa is a survivor of the Third Holy Grail War from 60 years ago who wants to fulfill his wish using the Greater Grail. Sieg arrives at Yggdmillennia Castle and bargains with the Masters to allow the homunculi to fight on their free will, on their own, rather than simply obeying orders. As they are discussing, Avisbron meets Roche near a lake, where Roche hands Avisbron a magical component. Avisbron's past is shown, where, fed by the world's cruelty, he decides to save it himself. Jean finally confronts Sieg and chastises him for his recklessness in becoming the Saber of Black, Siegfried, and master of Astolfo. Sieg tries to explain that he couldn't watch anyone get hurt in front of him, so he decided to act. Left with no choice in front of the stubborn Sieg, she recognizes him as a participant in the Great Holy Grail War. Chiron discusses with Gordis the intentions of Avisbron. Chiron tells him that he needs a strong core for his golem and he chose his own master Roche, and its core because of his strong magical circuits and harmony with him. At the lake, Roche is betrayed and fed to the golem, and Avisbron uses his noble phantasm, Golem Keter Malkuth, to give life to the first human, Adam. The golem with Avisbron arrives at the castle of Yggdmillennia to destroy everything. Chiron encounters them and fires an arrow through Avisbron's head, after which he starts to perish. Avisbron turns into energy and his consciousness is merged with that of the golem. Chiron takes up with a plan and tells Jean that they will need help from one more servant to take down the golem. Jean asserts her rulership by summoning Mordred to the field right away. Mordred agrees to help Sieg, who transforms into Siegfried, in order to defeat the golem. Jean, Astolfo, Astolfo and Chiron attack the golem to throw it off balance. Siegfried and Mordred charge their noble phantasm and release their power after getting close to its core. Their combined noble phantasm cuts golem in half, completely obliterating its core, and golem is taken down. Atalante, Achilles, and Karna tell their wishes to Amakusa in the Hanging Gardens. On the other hand, in the place of Yggdmillennia, the masters try to come up with a strategy to catch up to the Hanging Gardens and stop Amakusa from realizing his goal. Mordred and Shishigou agree to join forces with them to take down Amakusa. Chiron asks Collis on the roof if Fiore is really cut out to be the head of Yggdmillennia, as mages are abnormal and Fiore has her human mortality intact. Chiron asks him to take care of Fiore because he cares for her as a teacher. Collis answers that he will support his sister if she wishes to be the head of Yggdmillennia, and because of an old law, the little brother follows his sister. Jean plays Mordred with the agreed upon command spell and transfers her command spell to Shishigou. She gives 2 command spells to Sieg and strictly tells him not to use his last command as his condition is a miracle, and miracles do not come for free. Shishigou takes Mordred and goes back to their old hideout. He tells Mordred about his ancestors who made a deal with the devil. They grew into strong necromancers, but it became a curse. The curse is the end of their bloodline with Shishigou. He even tried to adopt a child, but in the process of passing his crest, the child died due to the magic turning into poison. Shishigou's wish is to have descendants. They both decide to move as a separate unit, and when both parties are engaged in the battle, they will take the Greater Grail. Jean is confused about feeling worried about Sieg in her room, not knowing if it is her feeling or the feeling of the girl whose body she is in, Letitia. Gordis notices homunculi being treated in the hallway and decides to help them recover. The Hanging Garden proceeds to its destination with Amakusa determined to realize his wish. Jack the Ripper tortures a man in a confined place to get information and later kills him. Having acquired this info in the conscious realm, Letitia asks Jean if she despises the humans who burned her. Jean responds that she does not hate them and that while she did not gain anything, hope was born. Jean accepts it as the will of God and Letitia admires his strength. The former meets Sieg in the hallway and volunteers to help him distribute the supplies he is carrying. But that is when Sieg collapses to the ground and is carried to Chiron. Chiron sees black marks on his body and comes to the conclusion that turning into Siegfried is taking a toll on him. Every time he transforms, his lifespan is reduced. Jean and Astolfo leave Sieg in his room and advise him not to move until he has rested himself. Fiore calls Jean and asks for her assistance in stopping the assassin of Black, Jack the Ripper, from killing people for no apparent reason. They have 3 days to sort this matter out, but are at a serious disadvantage. Due to Jack's ability, no one remembers what Jack looked like. They reach the area where the torture was reported and find the man tied to his seat with his heart gouged out. Collis uses the residual memory technique to see the victim's last moments. Using this, he figures out that the next target is Fiore. They rush back after realizing this. Meanwhile, a poisonous fog appears at the Yggdmillennia Palace, and Jack arrives. She corners Fiore, but Fiore escapes through the window. Due to her desirability, Jack catches up to her as she is about to be murdered. Sieg intervenes and fights Jack. Chiron also arrives, and seeing that she is outnumbered, Jack decides to retreat. Fiore once again forgets Jack's appearance, while Chiron thanks Sieg for protecting her. The end. For now. What awaits our heroes? Will they be able to acquire the Greater Grail or fall in the hands of the enemy? Find out in the next part.